And we were basically banning China's ZTE from government stuff. And Trump goes, hey, look, I made a promise to President Xi that we wouldn't do this. So I hope you guys can just follow through on that. A promise, not like this is a real threat to democracy. It was like, oh, he called me and asked nicely, and I promised him.
Hello, this is Denver Riggleman with our first episode of Coalition of the Sane, or what we like to call the COTS. And can you believe that Adam Kinzinger is joining us today? First elected in 2010, Adam was a hero in the January 6th investigation and somebody that I like to call a dear friend. He's also a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard and somebody who really knows what crazy looks like behind the scenes. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Adam Kinzinger and let's get to work. No, so Adam, thank you. This is the first episode of Coalition of the Sane. The fact that you would do it is fantastic.
Yeah. By the way, it better not fail after this. After I'm your first guest. I mean, come on, that's a lot.
Well, we're hoping for 100 views.
Good.
You know, we're hoping for 100 views on the first.
Hey man, shoot low, aim high. That's how you got to do it.
Well, hey, you're a pilot. You know exactly what that means.
That's right.
But no. By the way, two Air Force bubbas are going to be sitting here talking about sanity, but also about the reality of what we're going through today. And Adam, I got to ask you this. Me and you served together in Congress. Incredible run that you had, even with all the crazy that was going on. No pun intended. I got to ask you this right off the bat. And you might not have an answer for this, but when was the first time? When is the time after all the stuff that me and you had seen, everything you saw in the years beforehand? When was the time when you're like, we have jumped a shark, where you're like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, this isn't when I said I can't do this anymore, but like one of the first things I was kind of an oh crap moment was, you remember after Trump got elected, it would, if you're sitting in the cloakroom, which for those that don't know is kind of behind the house where we can kind of go relax. You sit in the cloakroom and everybody was talking about how crazy Trump was and how insane this is. And we just got to get through these. And I don't even remember who it was, but I remember going back there, sitting there and hearing somebody who I respected all of a sudden defending Trump on something crazy he said. That was like my moment where I'm like, people are starting to buy into this, like legitimately buy into it. I think had to do, I don't even remember what it was, but where I really was like, oh man, was, after January 6th, my assumption, and I think it was based on good order, was like, okay, everybody's going to wake up and be like, let's vomit this guy out. Right. I think it was when we're sitting around in the conference meeting, which for those who don't know, it's when all the Republicans get together and talk about this. And it was just silence. Like people weren't necessarily coming out for Trump, but they were just silent because they didn't know what to do. And to me, it was like, this isn't a moment of, I don't know what to do. This is a moment of, I got to do something. And I think that was probably the second when I said, this may not go well. And the thing that really put me over the top, Denver, was Kevin McCarthy with his picture with friggin' Donald Trump 2 or 3 weeks after. That was my oh shit moment right there.
It's almost like he went to give mouth to mouth to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, right, at that time. But I don't know if you remember, Adam, we first met in the cloakroom when Tom Garrett introduced me to you.
I do remember, yeah.
Right before he resigned, right, for alcoholism. I never thought I was going to run for Congress. And the fact is, when we first got in here, people don't know that. Adam, you didn't talk to me much. We didn't talk to each other much at the beginning. And even then, though, every time we did, it was fun. I don't know if you remember, when we did interact, it was great. I'm like, man, I like that cat. And the fact that we're both Air Force, I think we just, naturally started to, become friends and talk more and more. But, I want to tell you this, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I even sensed as early as 2019 that you were having issues with the conference.
Oh, yeah.
And also, as you know, you're probably like, God, Denver joined the Freedom Caucus. That stupid ass.
Yeah, you dumbass.
Yeah, dumbass. But, and I went to 3 meetings. The first meeting, Louis Gohmert said that we needed to have legislation to stop a worldwide algorithm from suppressing conservative voices. No shit. And so I think my moment was when, honestly, I went to a meeting at the White House and we were all sitting around this huge table. And I don't know if people know this, Adam, you know this, and you can give me the north-south head nod, but Trump is exactly the same way behind closed doors that he is in public. There's no nuance. Right? He has no other IQ meter at all. But I remember we were in this closed door meeting, and when it was done, I thought it was going to be about policy, but Trump was just talking about his trips and how much fun he's having and this, and it was just bizarre. People started bringing out stuff to sign, hats, T-shirts,
Oh,
little Trump dolls. I was the only one in the room that didn't have something for him to sign, and it was noticeable.
yeah.
And so that was 3 months in. I started to feel like something was really wrong. But it really was when Trump retweeted that Obama and Biden killed SEAL Team 6, Adam, that, that was really my trip point. But yours is really interesting. I saw what you've done on the committee. And I want to say this, watching it as a senior technical advisor, I think your passion about law enforcement is something that gets to me today. And the fact is, I think your service actually helps in where you are on the sanity meter. I think it's really high.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess the next thing I want to talk to you about, and you talked about that one moment, is as you're seeing things happening now, Adam, and I know that, gosh, this question is probably not really that fair. When you're talking about sanity and reality, is there anything that you can see that can change people's minds? Do you think there's any way, with the disinformation, the crazy you see out there, is there anything that you can see that might swing the tide for a portion of voters out there right now?
Yeah, I think so. So it's interesting. I'll go back for a second and say, when you had mentioned 2019, I'm glad you said that, because the truth is, ever since Donald Trump was elected, I really had been struggling. Like, when you've got to get reelected and, you're a Republican, and, that's not like all of Donald Trump's policies were bad. We wanted tax reform, like that kind of stuff. But I was sitting there and I just always felt sick about him. There was no point at which I was on the Trump train or like into Donald Trump. And I always felt kind of not true to myself. Although I spoke out all the time, I felt like, I don't know, I guess I was kind of like compromising in order to stay in Congress because Trump was president. And I think basically from his election on is when I really struggled to feel proud to be a Republican, for instance. I was just kind of like, man, my party's lost its mind. And I remember sitting in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. This was a really interesting thing. You said that about everybody bringing out stuff to sign. So there was a big group. I mean, it was just like, it was always like that, by the way, as you know.
Oh, it's insane.
It was insane. So there was this big group of us. It was like Liz, me. I don't know if you were in this meeting or not, but there was like a handful of congressmen, a handful of senators. And, we're sitting there with Trump. This is in the Roosevelt room at the time.
Oh,
and
yes.
They do this big spray where all the cameras come in and, they're around the thing. We were there to talk about China's ZTE. Well, he told the cameras, we're here to talk about immigration. So we go around the table on this stupid immigration stuff. That is the time when Donald Trump told us, after the cameras left, he goes, look, on the China ZTE, and for those who don't know, it's Chinese telecom, state-owned, all the problems you would imagine. And we were basically banning China ZTE from government stuff. Trump goes, hey, look, I made a promise to President Xi that we wouldn't do this, so I hope you guys can just follow through on that. A promise, not like this is a real threat to democracy. It was like, oh, he called me and asked nicely, and I promised him. And Denver, the number of U.S. senators, this is what blew me away. Like, congressman, I can get it, because
Yes,
U.S. senators that sat there, what I call them smiley McGee's, just like smiling at Trump. It was pathetic. So the question is, man, what do I think can change? Look, I mean, I don't think there's a speech that's going to change this. I don't think, I really actually think, and in a way I hate to see it, but I think it's necessary. The GOP has to become crazier and crazier and crazier. And I think there's a danger that it captures and brings people along with it. But my hope is that at some point it becomes so damn crazy that they can't win an election anymore. They lose, and maybe there's a wake-up call. I'm not going to sit here and I'm long optimist on America. I still am, but I can't tell you what that path is to get to sanity because I just don't see it at the moment.
Yeah, I don't either. I almost wonder, Adam, and I think people need to understand what the big supporter you are of me also. We're starting a graph neural network AI company to actually track domestic and foreign terrorists, especially in the disinformation space. I want to thank you for supporting me in that, Adam.
Sure.
But I want to go back to what you said about ZTE. Do you think the hundreds of thousands that are watching this right now and listening to this, Do you think they understand how crazy what you just said is about him promising Xi? I listen, I said that the craziest time for me was him retweeting that Obama and Biden killed SEAL Team 6. What you just said, I'm going to tell you, Adam, and I'm not saying this to flatter you, that's crazier.
Oh, it's
That's
crazy.
nuttier.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's literally insane.
I mean, look, he at one point it was a small group of us talking to him about, actually John Bolton had brought us all in to talk him off the ledge on the Kurds, on abandoning the Kurds. And yet it was like me, Liz Cheney, Crenshaw, Richard Hudson. And at one point I said, look, Mr. President, you can't abandon the Kurds. You can't leave Syria because Syria is going to be a negotiated solution. We need troops on the ground in order to be able to have a seat at the table. And he just goes, Adam, why the F do I care what happens there? Like, why do I care? And this is just him, because the only thing that matters with him in foreign policy has nothing to do with the strength of the United States. It has everything to do with him and how it affects him. And so China ZTE, think about this. You have a telecom company, okay, that is, and this is my concern with TikTok, by the way, but you have a telecom company that can openly spy on what is being done in the US government. And this authoritarian dictator piece of garbage calls Trump and says very nicely, can you not do it? And Trump, with his serious face, comes to members of the Senate and the House and says, can you guys pull this off because she asked me nicely? Like, he is the worst foreign policy president in American history.
And that's why I wanted you to re-explain, I have some background in comms, and you explained that so well. I hate to give credit to an Air Force pilot, but that was pretty good. That was really
tough
good.
to do. I know.
It's tough. I know it's hurtful. But I have to say this. I told somebody the other day, and I'd love to get your take on this. Somebody said, well, all the Republicans are crazy. And I said this, and I just love when we have these discussions because I know we do on the phone and nobody wants to see our text messages, do they?
No.
So here's the thing. When I said this, I said crazy is not party specific, but the Republicans are in a hold my beer moment.
Right.
Me and you were GOP. Me and you, nobody can say we're not center right or right. Nobody can say that we didn't vote the way Republicans are supposed to vote. That is true. However, when you're looking at it now, how big do you think, is there a delta between the crazies on the left and the crazy on the right? And if there is a delta, how big is it? If you're looking at the way that we're structured right now as a country, I'm asking, I know these are tough questions and I do apologize, my friend, but you're crushing it. Do you think right now that crazy on the right is so far overshadowing crazy on the left? Or do you see some kind of balancing happening where crazy on the left is starting to spike? And I know this is, I see a lot of data, but what do you think? I mean, from seeing anecdotally, you're really in touch with what's going on out there. What do you think about that as far as where the party's at on the crazy spectrum?
Look, there is crazy on the left. And here's my warning to Democrats, because I know there's probably a lot of Democrats that are listening, is look, there was a point in 2016 or 2015 or whatever, I can look back on and say there was crazy on the right. And we said in response, oh, that's just how they always are. That's not the party. That's not whatever. That's just a few of them. I hear that a lot from my Democratic friends when I talk about crazy on the left. They're like, oh, they're using the same things we said 10 years ago. The difference is, I think right now the Democrats are far better at party discipline from the center, at holding the coalition together, at pushing back on their crazies. Look, AOC, love her or hate her, she's now apparently a team player. You've got a lot more that aren't, by the way. Yeah, you've got a lot more that aren't, Tlaib and stuff like that. But they've been able to control that. And this is a warning to Democrats. Keep controlling that, because if you don't, it will overtake the party, period. So if you're going to look at the delta between crazy left and crazy right, by far, crazy right has gets the trophy right now, because yes, there are a lot of people that are truly crazy, but what bothers me more than anything, Denver, is not even the crazy people that believe it. It's the friggin' cowards that we used to serve with that are unwilling to call out white nationalism, Christian nationalism. They're unwilling to call out these people who would abandon Ukraine. This is the most defining moment in my lifetime. I almost think this is just as important or more important than the fall of the Berlin Wall in terms of what the future of this world is going to look like. And you have people, look, Mike Gallagher is leaving. Why isn't he shutting down the floor and forcing a vote on Ukraine? It only takes 2 Republicans to shut it down. The problem is anybody with courage, you, to an extent, me, Liz, anybody with courage either left or has been voted out. And what you have left is survivors, right? These are the cockroaches that survived the nuclear fight. They know how to hide. They know how to survive. And that's a frightening thing to me.
Gosh, Adam, it's so eloquently stated. You got in front of my Gallagher question. That is brilliant. You knew I was, going to Gallagher, going to shutting down the floor. Why isn't Gallagher doing it?
Why, yeah.
Where's Don Bacon and all this?
Where's Mike McCall? Where's
Mike McCall?
Yeah, the two leaders. Where are they?
I don't know. And listen, I know what you would do. If there's one thing I know about you is you're pretty freaking fearless when it comes to what's doing right on the floor. And I've seen your vote.
And so listen, are you. Yep.
Well, thanks. But, you got a chance to do something that I still am very envious of. And that, I got to do some senior technical stuff. But the thing is, you being up there, behind the podium and the way that you stated your arguments were just fantastic. Now, I know, you have a fantastic staff. But I got to tell you, Adam, the way that you executed it was absolutely marvelous. And
well, thanks. Let me just say too, by the way, in fear of being a member of the Mutual Admiration Society, for those that don't know, Denver really was the one that, we were kind of spinning our wheels trying to figure out, okay, look, we have very limited time to investigate. Where do we start? And when you got into the text messages and were able to connect those links, that's what actually lit off the investigation. So while you may not get the same credit that Liz or I get, you had just as important of a role. And I want to make that point and tell you that that's important. And look, Denver, everybody that gets elected to Congress has this fantasy that someday they'll be able to stand alone on the House floor or go out guns blazing. But very few people actually get an opportunity to do it. And those that do, don't do it. I look back and say, yes, it was hard. But I got a chance to stand up and do the right thing. And I will forever be able to tell my son with a straight face what courage is and what it means to stand alone. Because I'm afraid that there's a lot of people I served with and you served with that when they have young children and their children ask them about doing the right thing, they're not going to be able with a straight face to tell them what that means because they were unwilling to do it. How embarrassing.
You started with McCarthy and his slow crawl to Mar-a-Lago. You are not that guy. And I tell you, you are truly a member of the Coalition of the Sane. And I just want to say, the fact that you would come on here in our first program and be so eloquent, but also absolutely, buddy, you throw haymakers. And I don't think, I really think that people need to realize what you said. And I hope people really listen to Adam on this. Was Trump's decision making, which is literally insane. But the fact is Adam really did identify the lack of courage on the congressional floor right now. And the very people we would think would do it, like the Gallaghers, like the McCalls, we know them. Adam, we know those people. We would do it. Me and you would do it. We'd be in a freaking bar fight that night, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
But we would do it. So I don't know why they're not doing it. I have to say, man, you are something else. So I want to end with this. What do you think about the Republican legislator in Tennessee asking for an amendment to allow first cousin marriage?
Look, every one of these stories like this, or like where some, dude like was trying to groom a kid, I'm like, it's always the Republicans. It's always the party of family values.
Always.
So you know what? Tennessee, marry your first cousin, enjoy. Whatever. The GOP is the party of anti-IVF, which we used to be for, and
we were
marrying
for
your
IVF.
cousins. Yeah.
If we're anti-IVF and marrying your cousins, I don't know if that's a platform I ever want to run on. I don't know if that's either. I don't think I want to do that. But buddy, hey, listen, I want to tell people too about your service. And as we're leaving here, as you're a member of the COTS, man, the COTS, the Coalition of the Sane, thank you for everything you've done for our country. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being so eloquent. Thank you for fighting, man. Thank you for being a scrapper. I know the past, what you've done in your life, the bravery you've exhibited then. I just want to tell you, Adam, not only you're a friend, you're a daggone American hero. And I just want to say that. And thank you for being my first guest, because I don't think I could have had a better human being.
Thanks, buddy. Right back at you. Appreciate it. And good luck with this. Hopefully we get 20, 30 people listening.
At least. And then me and you could party.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, man. See you, Adam. Thanks, brother.
You bet.
All right, man. See you, buddy.